Since the beginning of time, man has asked the question, would you? To which at least one undoubtedly answered, would. Yet despite this universal proclivity, humanity seems to jump the theoretical gun. There still remains the question of, could you? Romance, whatever its form and its subsequent results, are a topic found universally in humanity's storytelling, of course also extending outside of the humane. Just ask Zeus. Whether it be gods or otherwise, nothing is safe or sacred when it comes to humanity's most primal drives. But given my typical subject matter, and in the interest of keeping the topic relatively tame, I will modify this question to, could you date a yokai? And I plan to give a conclusive answer. But to do that, we need to talk about what makes a yokai. Japanese belief is based in animism. Though people today might not be religious, the effects of these beliefs has shaped their cultural evolution. Yokai were ways to explain phenomena beyond human understanding, giving not answers, but names to one's fears of the unknown. The kanji for yokai are yo, meaning attractive, bewitching, or calamity, and kai, meaning mystery or wonder. For example, the kappa, like Nitori, are famous yokai with many legends surrounding them. The Japanese believed that they pulled people down into the water, a supernatural answer for drowning victims and strong river currents. But just as there are these gruesome stories about them, there are details about them loving sumo wrestling and cucumbers. There are even legends of kappa helping people rather than harming them. And yet this dichotomy is not unique to kappa. It is found in most yokai, with some even being predominantly kind to humans. So if yokai were meant to be these answers to humanity's fears and troubles, why are those same yokai accompanied by so many positive stories? Why were all of these endearing traits added and passed alongside their legends? The answer to these questions lies within this scroll drawn in the 16th century. This is the Hyakki ya Gyozu, Demon's Night Parade illustration. This piece is famous, and notably, it stands as the earliest known depiction of yokai. This would be the catalyst for many other artists to begin depicting all sorts of yokai in their own work. These terrifying myths slowly became familiar and beloved parts of everyday life. The art that resulted from these exhibited yokais creating their own shrines, holding festivals, dancing, and partying. The yokai were emulating humans, parodying them, and yet these depictions were cute, endearing even, like picture books with animals dressed up as humans going about their day. It's no wonder that the Japanese grew fond of them. Their legends began to be recontextualized in a more positive light. Looking back at our kappa example, instead of the cause for drownings, one could instead frame them as a warning sign to keep people safe. The same being said for all manner of once dangerous yokai. By the 18th century, a craze over yokai began, stemming from the creation of Toriyama Sekien's Gazu Hyakki Yagyo, illustrated night parade of 100 demons, a 4-part catalog dedicating each page to a single yokai. And if you were wondering, the concept of a night parade actually predates these illustrations. It's even the basis for one of Suika's titles and one of Mamizo's spell cards in Touhou 13.5. This catalog's popularity saw the creation of children's games, more art, and the increased popularization of sharing scary stories. After turning these formless beings into pictures, humans were taking control of them, taming them in a way. As they did so, they became more fond of them. The relationship between humans and yokai evolved from one of fear to one of love, and many began to believe it mutual. And that brings us to the Touhou Project. In both of my world-building essays about the series, I explain how faith equals power, belief equals reality. These two statements are the foundation for everything else in the series. In that case, the yokai seen in Zun's works are probably closer to reality than one would think. Rather than a Flanderization of Japanese myth, the series is a celebration of it. But who cares about that? You clicked on this video to see if you could kiss them and stuff. Which is forbidden, by the way. But that's the important part, isn't it? Forbidden love is a trope found universally across different cultures. The underdog story of romance that extends to plots about love between humans and mythological beings. Myths about yokai and humans being together are no exception, one of which being Lafcadio Hearn's Yuki Onna. And believe it or not, there's a subgenre of Japanese myth for these stories called magical wife, which is exactly what it sounds like. But this trope is key because it means dating monster girls is not only possible, it's part of the human canon. And to clarify, when I say the human canon, I'm not talking about the canon of a storyline. A canon is like one part in a line of volumes. So to clarify, I mean on the bookshelf of humanity, there is an entire volume for dating monster girls, and it's next to 1990's Pretty Woman. Let's take Seiya as an example of an utterly undateable character. Her absolute contrarian nature could then be seen not as the ultimate red flag, but a narrative conflict under the forbidden love trope that foreshadows some resolution for the sake of a story. Of course, we're talking about hypothetical reality, not a story, but going off our previously established idea that belief equals reality, the rules of fantasy would apply here. It doesn't mean the story will end happily, but you have a shot. And if Seiya is even remotely possible, anything is possible. To summarize, between the historical shift towards depictions of endearing yokai who emulate and even sometimes protect humans, and humanity's own inclination towards stories of interspecies affairs, human yokai romance naturally became a prominent trope in media over the years. Therefore, by the logic of Gensoukyo's belief equals reality, dating yokai is not only possible, but plausible. For better or worse, yokai cannot exist without us. They are the yin to our yang, the law birthed by chaos, the fear that binds our curiosities, the primitive answers to sate innocent questions of reality, and for that, we care about them, and conversely, perceive them as caring for us. Now, for those of you quick on the uptake, did I just bait people with suggestive imagery and promises of magical wives? Just a ramble about the historical-cultural evolution yokai undertook as a result of artistic trends? Yeah. And I'd do it a third time. But whether or not you saw it coming, I would be happy if you still came out the other end of it having enjoyed the ride. And perhaps joining me again next time. But until then, thanks for watching. Her musical theme's called Lonesome Werewolf. And she's been looking for ways to meet people, so she has people to talk to in her spare time. I'll give her something to do in her fucking free time.